Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me for today's video. I hope that you're well and safe and taking care of yourselves at the moment. In today's video, I'm going to be reflecting a little bit on 2020 in terms of tarot journaling, my tarot practice in general, and also then looking forward and talking about some of my plans for 2021. So first of all, I'll talk a little bit about my tarot practice in 2020. I kept tarot journals in 2020 and I did daily draws and journaled about it every day, and I have several of these. I think I have 3 that look like this, the other one's over there because I'm literally just finishing it, and I have a few other journals that are different styles. I've really enjoyed working with these particular journals and I have talked about them before on my channel. These are paper blanks and they're available on Amazon, but they are made more sustainably, so recycled paper and such, and they are just beautifully like bound. Some of them have these like clasps and such, and I just feel like they're really beautiful to work with, and I like them in the different colours, and it's just nice. They look really smart on the bookshelf and really easy to kind of flip back and look through, and you've got a little like pocket at the back where you can like pop things into and make notes, and you've got the little ribbon which of course helps you to keep your place. So yeah, I found these to be really nice to work with. For my daily tarot drawing practice, what I decided to do was to track my tarot daily draws. So I created this rather messy looking bullet journal sheet, essentially. That's essentially what it is. I did take a look online for like tarot trackers and such, daily tarot trackers, and tried to kind of like make up my own system using some of those to sort of look at, but basically I just drew out a grid quite messily and all of the months on the top and the days on the bottom. At the very bottom I put the card that I got for the month, and then essentially I had these little symbols here for the major arcana. I created a key that was quite easy to reference, so when I do look at the symbols I know exactly which one it was. And then down here I've got either obviously the numbers, or P for page, KN for knight, Q for queen, and KI for king. And then I've got little cup symbol, a sword, a wand, a pentacle. The wand always made me think of Harry Potter for some reason. So what I would do was I would just write whatever card I got, and because I do tend to allow cards to fall out and then record those as well, occasionally I would get more than one card and I would record that. And then towards the end of the year I decided to stop just doing single draws, and I did a 3 card spread every day. So towards the end you can see it gets a lot more intense with a lot more cards every day. So that's a little bit harder to track. But I think I am really glad that I did this, because I feel like it was a lot of commitment, and because I wanted to have this completed, it sort of gave me that impetus to kind of continue and to do the daily draw every day. And I really enjoyed it as well. Like, even if usually I would pull the card in the morning and it was rare that I would forget, but if there was ever a situation where we were going out early in the morning and it just didn't happen in the morning, I would always still pull the card at the end of the day or when I got home for that day. So I still always found out how the card sort of came into my life during the day, and oftentimes I feel like it was giving me a kind of like warning of what to look out for and how to, you know, navigate whatever issues or problems or challenges might come up. And I did find it really helpful, and I found it nice that I was recording it as well, both in the journal and then coming back and recording it on here. I didn't actually record it on here every day, and at the end of the year I had about 5 months to fill in, so that wasn't so much fun. So I do recommend, if you do anything like this, that you just fill in the card you get on the day, because it just is going to make it a little bit easier at the end. So when you do your journaling, pop it in here. But there's a reason why I won't be doing this again. I'm not going to be doing this for 2021, and there's a reason why I won't be doing it again, and it is because I kind of got myself into this unfortunate bind where I found that I wasn't then able to work with any decks that deviated away from the Rider-Waite-Smith system, or for instance the Thoth. I couldn't work with those in a day because the correspondences weren't exactly the same, the systems weren't the same, and it didn't mean the same thing. Even if I had, say in the Thoth I had like, you know, the corresponding card to the Rider-Waite-Smith, there were different meanings, you know, it's set up differently. Not that I'm a Thoth expert, I'm still learning, you know, I will always be learning, of course, always learning, but I'm very much at the beginning of learning about Thoth. So I know a lot more about the Rider-Waite-Smith system than I do about the Thoth, but I felt like this inhibited me from doing a daily draw from my Thoth. When you're doing a daily draw, you don't also want to be doing spreads every day. I did do spreads as well, along with the dark moon or the new moon or the full moon or the Sabbats, or when I needed to do shadow work, or when I felt like I needed to ask a question. I would do those and I would record them in in here as well, but they didn't go on here. So I didn't include any other readings or spreads that I did during the year on here, and that was okay by me. But I also didn't want to restrict myself. It didn't sit well with me that I had to restrict myself from using Say the Thoth for a daily draw, because I'm just having to record it, and I was like, that is really a bind that I didn't see coming. And I think it actually was one of the reasons why it didn't work so much with like the Falakos tarot at the end of the year. Even though I'd got it, I did my walkthrough, I just felt like it was slightly too different to do that and then record it in here. So I think that this was a really, really great way to learn the cards, and having a daily practice really is a good way to learn the cards. I first learned how to read tarot when I was 17 or 18, and I read some books and I had a deck and I would play and I learned the meanings, did some readings and stuff, but then I put it to one side because I was young and, you know, very impressionable, and a lot of people didn't like that I was doing it, so I allowed that to happen. So I did kind of feel sad that I'd missed out on all of those years of working with the tarot, you know, but I did find that I had a good basis of understanding when I came to learn the tarot again a few years ago. And I studied Carl Jung at university, and some of his theories. I knew about archetypes, and, you know, all of that stuff would kind of come into my degree, and so I had quite an academic understanding of some of those topics and areas. So I was able to kind of apply the knowledge I had and read back over things and remember the knowledge I had of tarot, and then just learn again all of the meanings, and then get deeper in the meanings, get deeper, and then with every new deck, with every new card that would come up, there'd be more nuances. And that's one of the reasons as well I love to collect decks. I'm not a collector of decks in terms of like I buy them because they'll be worth lots of money. I buy them to work with them and love them. But in terms of having a collection, I have a collection, and I think that that's actually really, really helped in learning the correspondences and what the meanings are for me, and when they come up. And sometimes the cards show up in really strange ways that you wouldn't expect, and even though there might be a typical meaning for a specific card, you might pull it that day, but it kind of works out in a backwards way, but not just like a reversed way, but it's sort of a very unexpected way that the card plays out. And it's really enabled me to see, okay, what is the lesson I've learned from today? How does the tarot relate to that and correspond with that? What have I learned from what the tarot card that day has told me and shown me? And from that, it helps you to sort of glean even more meanings and even more personal meanings for you, you know, with these cards. And it helps you to learn how you like to shuffle and how you like your cards to be dealt, and how comfortable you feel doing however it is, whatever your little routine is. I think it's a really nice practice if you know tarot and you want to get deeper. I think it's a really nice practice to do if you are new to tarot and you're trying to learn from scratch the meanings. I think it's a really nice practice if you only read for yourself and you'd like to start reading for others, because I think it's really helped me to build up my confidence. My confidence isn't all the way there yet, and I still really only read for family and friends, and one of my hopes, I guess, soon is to be able to read for others. I haven't said that I will definitely do that this year, because it's a lot to expect of myself when I've got 2 small children, I'm trying to hold down a job and all of the madness of current situations. I'm not going to put really, really large expectations onto myself because I just don't want to, but I'll talk more about goals in a minute. But I think that this practice has been really, really enlightening and really helpful for me. But there was that bind that I found myself in. And so having done this record for a year, I'm really glad I have it, and I will keep it, you know, along with my tarot journals. I'm excited to do something different this year for 2021. For 2020, I also did my year ahead spread and made this bullet journal insert again, where I sort of laid out the cards. Now the deck that I actually used was the Ostara Tarot, but I used these little symbols that I kind of drew out, and they were inspired by the Soul Card Tarot, which is a deck I don't actually have, but it's a beautiful deck, and some of you may actually have it. I think it's like a black deck potentially, or a very, very dark deck with this like gilded symbols on it representing each card, and it's kind of pippish, obviously. And I just thought that because I was recording the images, it would be a really, really good way to show the symbols. And I actually did this page before I'd done this page, so looking back now, it probably would have been easier to use this key that I created for myself here. But I do love the way this page looks. I think it looks pretty. And then essentially what I do is I wrote out what the card was here, and then here I've just written my overall card for 2020 was the Chariot. The main card of the year in this spread was the Queen of Swords, which actually played out so so much for me last year, and I actually think was more pertinent as well than the Chariot. Maybe it's because it was from actually my reading rather than just a calculation that you make ahead of a year. And then I wrote out what happened in the months and how the cards kind of spoke to the happenings in that month. And I'm really, really glad I did this in this way as well. I think it's just very simple to go back to, very easy to look at. But for 2021, I haven't done this again. So for 2021, I have just done the reading in my journal, and I've used a little post-it note to show where it is so I can refer back to it, because that's one of the other reasons why I decided to do it on the sheet last year, was because I didn't want it to get lost within a journal and then having to flip through journals and trying to figure out where it is. So this is a really good reminder, so I know exactly where it is. I can see this sticking out from here and I can look back at it any time. And I've just done it in a very, very basic way. Just used a few highlighters and written card of the year here, which is Temperance. From this reading was Temperance. My card of the year that I've worked out is actually Strength this year. And then January I get the Fool. So at the top I'm just making it clear that it's my year ahead spread. So this is a lot simpler, and I think this is going to be a lot easier actually to refer back to for me because it's in the journal. And I've done these tiny little symbols. I used the light sears for this year just because I find that it talks so easily, and I feel like it's a lovely deck to work with so frequently. So I felt like it would be a really nice deck to refer back to. So that's that, and as you can see it's a lot less pretty, but you know, functional. So what I've done here is I've written my interpretation of the card, how I might see it playing out. I've also written little like thoughts about what I need to be doing here. So I've asked myself questions. So for one of the months I got the Page of Pentacles reversed, so I've put prompts for myself, so about feeling ungrounded, or do you need to go back to basics, do you really need to work with, you know, grounding, centering, do some earthing again, get out into nature, you know, slow down a little bit, pace yourself, take a detox, all of those things. And those are the things that kind of came to me because of the depiction and how I feel like I might actually be feeling by May. Then I've got a little space below which potentially is not enough to make reflections on the month, either after the month or during the month, whatever, whenever I feel like I need to, whenever I feel like, oh, that's speaking to that now. That is the way I'm going to be going ahead this year. I would also really, really like to invest in a larger book and do some tarot journaling, as in like journaling all of my correspondences to the cards, because I've never really done that. I did listen to Jen at the Harmonious Path with Jen talk about her tarot journaling practice. She talked about the journal she had and then not being able to use it because of feeling restricted by the pages, and so she uses a folder for hers, and I do think that that could be a good way to do it. I'm not putting a timeline on it, I haven't started it yet, but I will be doing that. So that is one thing that I'm hoping to do for myself this year. Another thing that I would like to do is continue sketching out my drawings of the tarot. So I am working on creating a tarot deck. I have sketched out maybe 8 of the cards so far, so really at the beginning stages, and I haven't decided yet how I want to get colour into the deck. I'm just starting with pencil sketches first. I'm going to sketch all of the cards out and then I'm going to decide how to take it further. Having done art when I was younger, I did a lot of watercolour, I did some oil paintings, you know, oil pastels. I really enjoyed using oil pastels, but part of me wants to create a deck that maybe starts with something like watercolour but also incorporates some digital art as well, and I don't know how to use any digital art programs whatsoever. So that's something that is a step, like the next step I see myself taking, like with this, once I've got the bare bones. When I create the sketch for whatever card it is, I sort of have a really deep kind of brainstorm about the card and try to pull in the correspondences that I see working for the deck. And I still don't know what I would title the deck either. It's, as I said, 8 cards in, just sketches, so I'm so in the beginning stages. I started it last summer, so you know, I am very, very, very slow, and this will probably take me at least 10 years, maybe 20. So I'm prepared for it to take the rest of my life, and I'm okay with that because it's a labour of love and it's something that I'm doing just because I love it and because I love drawing and creating, and it just fills me with joy, and I actually find it to be a very meditative practice as well. The only issue is that I find it very hard to find time to put that time in. So by making it one of my goals, I'm hoping that I will actually say, okay, no, this is part of the thing that you said you're going to do for yourself. So even if you enjoy it, you need to do it. And yeah, you did hear me right there. So much of my life, I don't let myself read because I feel like I should be editing, or, you know, if I get any spare time, I'm like trying to edit for my other YouTube channel or clean or organize or do something around here. childcare or spend time with the kids, you know. And now with homeschooling and everything, it's just a full-on job. It's really, really challenging, and I never really considered that this would be my job, but it really is. And I'm trying to hold down my other job, and then also just being a parent. I'm just trying not to get overwhelmed and swept up in this momentum, and it kind of feels like the Chariot right now. Like, that was the card from 2020, so it's almost like it's just barreling into 2021, taking me with it. But yes, I chose my word of the year to be balance for this reason. I actually chose it obviously before we knew we were going to be in a lockdown, but I do think it was interesting that I got temperance in my year ahead reading. Having balance is obviously really important, and I think that it's something that I do not struggle with, but it's something that I can sort of forget. Sometimes I can get swept up in emotion and get overwhelmed and sort of het up very, very quickly. I'm a Leo sun, a Cancer moon and a Scorpio rising, so I have a lot of water and a lot of fire, and I actually have quite a bit of air in my chart as well, and not very much earth. So I think sometimes I really just need to like ground, you know, and that is one of the reasons why it's such an important part of my practice. Yeah, just keeping my feet on the ground. I think it is something that I battle with, you know, having to kind of just like breathe into the moment and allow things to happen and not panic, not get stressed. I've suffered from panic attacks in the past and heart palpitations and such, and anxiety, and I do think that for me, getting balance is probably one of my challenges. And as a mum as well, there's so many emotions, and with this last year, I also lost some loved ones in 2019, in the middle and at the end of 2019, and then I lost my grandmother at the end of 2020. I felt that sadness and just this overwhelming feeling of like emotion, you know. I didn't want to cry. I'm not gonna cry. I'll cry later. So I do feel like balance for me is so important. So I chose that for my word of the year, and it also comes into goal setting for me because I don't want to be setting myself like a list of goals that are really hard to achieve and that I have to work ridiculously hard to achieve. I want them to feel effortless. I want them to feel joyful, and I want there to be an element of ease and flow to my life, because there's so much about my life, especially right now, that does not feel easy or flowing in any kind of way. You know, just dealing with things like tantrums and stuff, it's just the reality. Facing tantrums every single day, and it is like a panic fest. And when you're someone who's sort of prone to anxiety or panicking anyway, those kind of things as a parent can be really, really challenging to deal with. So balance for me, I just felt was a really, really good word. So in terms of goals, I have not really set any goals for myself in terms of the way I will practice with tarot this year. I have a few decks in my mind that I know I want to go deeper with, such as the Velakos Tarot. The Hoodoo Tarot is another one. The Witch's Wisdom is another tarot deck that I want to delve into. But really, it's going to be a very intuitive thing for me. So I'm not going to beat myself up if at the end of the year I didn't go deep with a deck that I really wanted to, because there's time. You know, I've got time with my decks, I hope, because I can still do that, and it's not going to take away anything from my enjoyment of working with the tarot if I don't work with a particular tarot at any one point. I think for me, it's just going to have to be about going with the flow, taking my time and working intuitively with the decks. I have the same kind of attitude towards my reading. I love reading so much, and I really, really enjoy reading, but occasionally I'll be in the middle of a book and then I'll be drawn to starting another book, and I'll read that like in a matter of days and then go back to the ones that I'm kind of like nursing or dipping in and out of. I do like to read a book and finish it though, so it kind of frustrates me if I don't, but because I do like to work intuitively, and I think if a book calls to me and I need to read it, I know I need to read it for some reason, I will have to read it, and I honour that. I go with it, but it does frustrate me when I don't finish a book. When it's a novel and I'm not enjoying it, that's a different story, but if it's a book that I'm learning from, then I do like to finish the books. So I do have some books I want to read this year. I haven't written them down. I am keeping a log of what I do finish though, so whenever I finish a book, I will log it. I just do that in a Word document on my computer because I just find that the easiest to refer to and to look at. And I feel that by dipping in and out of books and just going intuitively with it is working for me, as long as I do, you know, finish the books eventually. But I don't read as fast as I would like to, and that is because I only give myself a little bit of time every evening to read. I won't sit in the day and read because I wouldn't let myself, you know. Even if I did have that time, I'd go find something else to do, and that's partly a shadow I think I need to work on, because I love reading so much. So if anything, I'm going to be working on my blockages around why I can't sit down and enjoy a book for myself. I had a similar thing when I was at university. I used to feel so guilty if I was reading a novel or something fun that was nothing to do with my dissertation or my university studies. So I do this to myself. I have very strange things in my head about how things should be done and how I should do it, and that's another reason why balance is a nice word for me. I have got some goals around a depth year, and I have written out some guidelines for myself that I've made pretty clear to myself. I'm allowing myself to pick up a treat deck here and there for like a birthday. If I haven't bought a deck in a while, like a few months, I might just treat myself to a deck. I haven't put a number on it, but I'm just going to be a lot more mindful about purchasing decks. Instead of seeing something that's coming out on Amazon and going, oh, I need that, and just getting it, or I love that, I love the art, getting it. I'm just gonna take my time, and I'm gonna prioritize those decks that I've written down that are at the top of my list, you know. I'm gonna invest in those first. I'm also going to invest in some more diverse decks and some melanated decks as a priority. And anything that has anything to do with working with the Morrigan, who I work with, anything as well to do with learning OM, I'm allowing myself to get in terms of like books and such, and perhaps a few more tarot books. In terms of witchcraft and magic, I haven't really got anything on the list that I want to pick up this year other than Kellyanne Maddox's new book, Rebel Witch, which isn't out yet, but I am definitely going to get that one this year. Other than that, I have a lot that I want to read, so that is the plan for the year ahead, basically. In terms of the no buy for other areas like fashion and beauty, what I'm allowing myself to do is to give myself a budget for the videos that I make. So when I make fashion videos, I'm always going to be trying to invest in sustainable pieces and ethically sourced pieces. That's just obviously where I'm aligned, allowing myself to pick up anything that I feel that I need, like in terms of like trainers, or I need a new pair of Wellington boots, for instance, because they've got holes in them, and I live in the countryside in Devon and I really need a pair of Wellington boots. You know, things like that I'm allowing myself to get. In terms of makeup, I'm not really planning to splurge on anything new. I will allow myself to pick up anything that has run out and maybe try a new product of something that is the equivalent of whatever's run out, do you know what I mean? But other than that, I'm not really gonna be picking up any palettes or anything. I'm just gonna try and limit as much as possible. It is about budgeting, but it's not really about budgeting. It's just about being more mindful and having more balance where it comes to what I'm spending. So I have those guidelines set out for myself, and I think I'm fairly clear on them. I haven't set myself lots of intense goals for achieving this year in terms of what I'm working with, what books I'm reading. I am going with the flow mostly as intuitively as I can, with a few decks in mind to work with, a few decks in mind that I want to pick up, and just being more mindful of my purchasing and my consumption in general. And I think perhaps some shadow work around my blockages with allowing myself to read and do meditative practices as well, like drawing or painting, which I clearly do really love and enjoy. Also, in terms of a daily journaling practice, I'm not planning to do a daily draw for tarot specifically. I think I'll probably do a week ahead spread, and then potentially any other spreads that come up through the week. That way I think that I can sort of hone in on the cards a little bit more, get a little bit more detail out of them, and of course I will be journaling them. I also am going to have another book along these lines that I'm going to work with as a book of shadows, because I do have several books of shadows or grimoire type things that are in different formats, and my favourite one is my sort of arty book of shadows, but I don't tend to find much time to put spells and correspondences and such in there, because it all has to look pretty and it takes time. I do obviously record whatever I do, and I have another journal that I record things in, but I want to get one like this that is going to be specifically like a book of shadows, so that everything can go in it, and I'm not going to be precious about how it looks. I'm going to do sketches as and when, and some journaling. It'll be a bit like one of those artist sketchbooks, you know, that they carry around with them and pull them out, and it will be a bit more like that. So a little bit more of like a working book of shadows, which up until now I've got files on the laptop with word processed spells and workings and rituals that I've written, and I have a little notebook grimoire thing that's got little fields that you can fill in with what you've done and how it worked, etc. I've got my arty book of shadows, and then I've also got a folder with printouts and then loose leafed papers, and I think that's great, but it's really full, and I just want to have something that's more like a journal as well. So I'll still add to the other things, but this is going to be like a journal, but it's going to be for my magical practice, and I feel like it'd be more accessible like that as well, because oftentimes I'll want to look at something that I did and I'll have to root through the whole folder and find whatever. But I think if it's in this journal and it's something that I've been working with, I don't know, it probably won't be easier. I think that a lot of people have this kind of inertia around the way that they're recording their practice, recording their spells and stuff, and I think that you kind of just have to go with what works for you, and sometimes I think it takes time to work out what actually does work for you, and I think that that's what I'm doing, you know. And unfortunately, when I was younger and I was in my teens, I first started learning about witchcraft when I was about 11, and I never really kept a journal. I kept printouts and like sketches and just random bits of paper here and there, and I've probably got bits and bobs in my old teenage diaries, but I never kept like a book of shadows, and I do kind of regret it, because I did practice throughout my teens and up until about the age of 19 really. So that's quite a lot of stuff that I did and learned that I missed out on sort of recording, and I think that you do regret it, and it really is helpful to record it, even if it is in just a daily journal. I think it is really important. So for me, I'm switching that up a little bit. I'm going to see how it works and trying not to put so many sort of perfectionist sort of restrictions on myself. I think, you know, if there's anything I learned from this, it's don't be too restrictive and allow yourself to go with the flow a little bit more. And I feel like journaling in this way, whether it's the bullet journal or the tarot journal, I feel like it's just going to be a little bit more organic and authentic to where I am right now, and maybe in a year's time I'll choose a different system again, but at the moment this is how I'm gonna go with it, and I think it will work for now because this is where I am right now. I feel like I've just said so much, and if you're still here then that's amazing, and I'm so grateful. I hope that some of this has been useful. Maybe it's been food for thought, maybe you've had similar experiences in the past, or you're experiencing something similar now. Maybe it doesn't resonate for you and it's a completely different experience, but I think that there's so much to be learned from that as well. I absolutely love hearing about the way people journal and the way people practice and the things that they've done, reflections, and how they're going to move forward. I really love these videos, and I really hope that some of the things that I've said have been of interest to you, even if they're not particularly relevant or resonant for you. As I said, I love watching these videos, so if you've done one, please do let me know. I may have seen it, I may have not, so I'd love to hear from you, and thank you so much for watching. I do kind of feel like this has been a bit of shadow work in itself, just this video. I don't know what that's about. Maybe it's the whole goal setting process. It's kind of like a cleanse. Oh, and maybe that's why it's something that people do at New Year. Anyway, thank you again so much for joining me. I really hope that it has been of some use or of interest to you. If you did enjoy it, please do click the thumbs up button, and if you'd like to see more from me then please do subscribe. I'd love to see you here again. So I do hope that you are taking care of yourselves, stay well and safe, and I look forward to seeing you in another video really soon. Bye. Mwah.